Hello, everyone, and welcome. SEC schedule has been released. My name is Bryce Kuhn. This is the Crowded Booth. Will Mann is going to be joining me. We'll see if Ralph gets off the 175K a day in time. But it's tonight's episode of the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Kuhn.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Bryce Kuhn, Will Mannis. Will, we've slowed down the live shows.
It's very close.
Yeah, it
Thumbs
is.
up. It's very close.
You want to come back here, or do you just? I like this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. How you doing? You having a good week so far?
Well, the week's coming to an end. My work week is about to start, so I've got the Thursday scaries. It's good to do a live show on Thursdays, though. Distracts me. My last few hours of freedom.
That's true. I guess the last few hours of freedom. Appreciate you tuning in, Power Tech. All right, let's talk tonight because we got a lot of different things to cover. Most notably, the SEC schedule release. Will, are you? I mean, I texted you. I was like, man, a 2-hour ordeal. Really, this is just a rolling out the red carpet for ESPN and the SEC. I don't know if we really talked about this though, and we'll kick it off with this. Are you kind of sad that we're not going to have the SEC on CBS? You might not like Gary Danielson, like that whole 9 yards. I just think growing up hearing that jingle, it's the SEC on CBS presented by Home Depot, and that's just been something that's been a part of our childhood.
I think that's really what I'm going to miss. It's just that intro music. It was the best in college football, and I think the Big Ten already tried to claim it as theirs, even though CBS didn't change it. So. That's the Big Ten. That's what they're going to do. But I kind of hope ESPN comes up with a new jingle just for the SEC. I haven't watched any of it. I didn't watch any of the schedule reveal because, like you said, it was a 2-hour show for mostly nothing. It's just putting logos on paper. They can do that online. I can see that online. So that's how I learned about the schedule.
Yeah, we're going to pull up the schedule online and the big spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet that they sent out. You mentioned jingle. Do you remember like the old college football jingle? And I want to see if I can find it. We'll get demonetized because of it, but it's just unbelievable.
For who?
ESPN. They used to have the old one.
Oh yeah, where it was the
it was like dun
had the
dun 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 dun.
Yep.
Let's see, this is it right here.
Yeah, that was good. They should bring that back, actually, just for the SEC.
Just for the SEC. Can you hear that?
I can.
That's not it. This is it, I believe.
I was going to say, is that an ad?
Let's see.
That's it. I remember that.
See, like that's great.
That's
like
it.
That was so good. And we didn't. I don't know. It just. They got to come out with a new jingle, right? Like that's what they have to do for the SEC.
So. They might as well spend all this money. Have something new.
I mean, have something new for us. No, I agree with you. All right, let's talk SEC football scheduling here because, look, we knew a lot of the big opponents, and one thing that ESPN and their partners, ABC, did is they kind of leaked the primetime matchups. I don't want to say leaked, but they kind of in waves. Like you knew when Georgia Alabama was going to be. Yeah. Like Georgia Alabama was announced on like Good Morning America. They're pulling out all the stops for all the different Disney-owned shows or whatever programs, channels, whatever you want to call it. So
I don't think us and Good Morning America have some. What's the TV term? You'll know better than me. A common audience. That's not the term I was looking for.
We don't.
Official term.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of our viewers watch Good Morning America. So.
I don't think so.
Maybe they're learning tonight for the first time. Who knows?
Maybe they are. And we know a lot of our fans aren't necessarily SEC fans, so that's something too.
They probably really don't know.
No, probably don't have a clue. But that's okay. So we're going to walk and talk. Obviously, the first weekend of the schedule is that Labor Day weekend, Will, and I'll pull it up and we can just kind of talk about here. What were some of your early reactions? Mine is this is a loaded 2024 slate.
Yes.
There are going to be a ton of fun. And yes, we see it there, Josh. Crowded Booth, better than Good Morning America. Absolutely love it. A loaded slate, a loaded slate with a ton of fun out of conference matchups, which I think a lot of us were kind of worried with the expansion of the playoff. Would we see those? What were some of your early thoughts? I'll pull the schedule up and we can roll with it.
Well, I'll tell you this. Just glancing through the schedule, I was trying to come up with who had the hardest and who had the easiest. I don't know that there is an easiest schedule. I think that's hard to
Yeah.
say. But I'll go ahead and say it. I went with Texas. You look at their, obviously they play Michigan on the road. That'll be
Mhm.
tough going up to Ann Arbor. They've got Oklahoma, but that's a neutral site. But they get Georgia at home. They get Florida at home. Yeah, I mean, they have to go to Texas A&M, to Arkansas. I think they're happy with that. You throw in Mississippi State at home. I think they got a pretty easy draw. I know they had to play Alabama this year.
Yeah.
They weren't going to have them their first official year in the SEC, but I mean, if I was Texas, I would love that draw that they got. Your toughest conference opponents are going to be at home or at a neutral site. So, but every schedule looks pretty difficult. The weirdest part is for both of us, especially you covering LSU now, is there's no Auburn LSU game. I mean, that has been a fun game the last 20 years, both programs being in really good
Mhm.
spots for the most part. And even when they're not in a good spot, the game is always fun
Yeah.
and weird. So it's weird that's not on there, and Auburn not getting either Mississippi school. Obviously, me being an Auburn fan, that's weird. But I don't know that there's an easy schedule out there. I mean, because you never know what you get. You never know what you get in the SEC.
True. And look, a lot of this can change. We don't even know the players that are going to be on certain teams, when this schedule comes out. So it's really kind of hard to gauge. One thing that is interesting, and they talked about this on last night's special, I want to get your thoughts. Texas played Alabama this past year, game 2. They got to play Rice before that. Now, obviously, this game's going to take a lot of, it's going to be later in the season for Texas against Georgia. But when Texas plays Oklahoma, this is hilarious. Texas played Oklahoma, and then they played at Houston, a game they almost lost. When they play Oklahoma this year, they're going to be coming off a bye week, and then they're going to host Georgia. So they're going straight from the game, Red River Shootout, massive rivalry. I'm excited to bring to the SEC. And then you're going to play Georgia. Like, when people get mad about the SEC, people saying the SEC is the best, I think it's just the week in, the week out of having to just play these teams where there's not a massive drop. Yeah, like there's a bottom tier. This year it was Vanderbilt, Mississippi State was in that category. But, I just think like it's Texas and Oklahoma. I think they will have, long-term decent success and be solid programs in this conference. But, man, I think they're going to be welcome to the fact of like you're not going to be playing – I got to be careful how I say this. Like, it's not going to be Oklahoma and then I'm playing Iowa State and then I'm playing – I don't even want to say Kansas because Kansas has been really good, top 25 program the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, it's really nothing new for Texas and Oklahoma because the Big 12 has been really competitive top to bottom.
It's true.
The last 5, 7, 8 years. Also, I think the SEC is a different animal than your bottom of your SEC. You're probably second from the bottom. Because Vanderbilt, I think any Big 12 team could handle Vandy, but it's tough. It's tough. They're tough places to play. It's tough to go on the road in every conference. All the coaches say that old cliche, but so it's really nothing new for Texas and Oklahoma.
There's nothing new. Looking at a couple other, marquee out of conference matchups. For some reason, LSU said, yes, we're going to play the conference slate, and then we're going to schedule UCLA and USC. USC going to be game 1 in Vegas. UCLA going to be just the first time the Bruins have ever come to Baton Rouge. That was actually a home and home that was scheduled years ago when LSU went out there and lost to UCLA in the Rose Bowl. So,
similar to Auburn, similar to Auburn Cal. Auburn gets Cal September 7th, week 2.
Big SEC ACC matchup there, Will.
That's right. Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Who would have thought Auburn would be playing an ACC school other than Georgia Tech in the regular season?
There you go. There you go. There you go. Alabama is going to travel to Wisconsin.
Interesting.
That's a fun. I will say this, and they talked about this on the panel last night. If you are Alabama and you're going on the road to Wisconsin, this is the time and place you want to do it. You don't want to play there in October, November when it's like freezing. You play in week 3, September 14th. It's still going to be a nice little fall afternoon. But I'm excited to see
probably on
a benchmark,
which is weird.
That might be the 3:30 CBS game.
It's so weird that these changing TV contracts. I mean, it's like same name, different place. Some of these, like that's probably going to be the CBS game. I don't know what the Big Ten schedule is for that week, but you got to think the CBS is going to take Alabama. It's not because it's Wisconsin. They're going to take Alabama.
I want to ask you this, and I texted you this last night. Like, what is the deal with Auburn playing like for the first month and a half at home? Now, I will give the credit here. They are going to play from November the 2nd on in the state of Alabama. They got to go to Tuscaloosa. It's really weird how many home games they get.
Yeah, I gave you a very, very emotional fan answer last night. I'm not going to give that same answer here. I don't understand. I don't get it. I mean, that I think that's a long-term effect of Texas A&M and Missouri joining the conference. Traditionally, Auburn got to flip-flop Georgia and Alabama home and away every other year, and Texas A&M and Missouri coming kind of messed that up. And now they've got them at the same place, either both at home or both on the road. And just for recruiting, Auburn wanted to move that game up so they could have a home game in November, to guarantee a home game in November. Mm-hmm. But now it just kind of makes October, nothing goes on in Auburn. It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you look at October. Okay, so they're going to play Oklahoma on the 28th. They're going to play Georgia and Athens on the 5th. So, I mean, it's not like a terrible road trip for Auburn fans. You have the bye week. Then you're going to go to Columbia, Missouri. And then you're going to go to Lexington. Yeah.
Gross.
Then you're going to go to Lexington. And then you come back and play Vandy in Auburn November 2nd. Like, you're not going to have a high-profile home game from September 28th until
maybe the rest of the year.
Well, you play A&M. We'll see how good A&M is.
That's
fans will get up
for
that. That's crazy. That's just nuts.
Fans will get up for that because it's the first big home game in 2 months. I mean,
that's crazy to think about.
That's why. But it'll probably be the noon kick on ESPN because
SEC.
I don't know who else is playing. I don't know the other. Who else is playing that week? We got it pulled up.
Yeah.
The 23rd.
Alabama,
Kentucky,
Oklahoma,
Texas. Oh, that's the primetime game. It's got to be, right?
Well, the thing we have to remember is what is the primetime game going to be from here on out? Like that time slot's going to be 7:30, 8 o'clock now instead of the 3. It's
not 3:30, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got Ole Miss. Ole Miss goes to Florida that week. But Florida, I want to talk about Florida. Florida is going to be.
Let's do it.
A disaster.
I mean, winners and losers. I don't know how Billy Napier survives. Like genuinely,
I don't think he can. It's a combination of everything. You look back. October, 2 months ago, he had the number 3 recruiting class in the country, and he's lost. Yeah. He's lost Jamonte Waller to Auburn. He's Amaris Williams today got a prediction. I don't know if 24/7 got it. I know On3 predicted Amaris Williams, another 4-star edge rusher, will flip from Florida to Auburn. LJ McCray, the 5-star defensive tackle, a lot of teams in on him. Auburn's in on him big. He visited Auburn last week. He's got other visits to go to. I think Florida State he's going to as well. I mean, it's falling apart. It's falling apart for Napier in Gainesville, and it's kind of come out of nowhere. I mean, the wins and losses don't look good, obviously. Yeah. But I felt at the end of the year they were figuring out who they were and being really competitive. They played Florida State close at home in that big rivalry game. So, it seems like it's just all crashing down, and it's going to end really quickly.
Yeah, you talk about the 2023 end of the year. I got the chance to see them in person on the 11th. They came to Baton Rouge and they put up 35 points, which against LSU's
great game.
Defense,
it's a great game.
That's you and I could probably put up at least 15 points against LSU's defense. But then they closed it out on the road at a top 20 LSU, on the road at a top 20 Missouri. Almost won that game in Missouri, and then hung around and nearly upset Florida State. I just think that. The back-breaking loss this year was the Arkansas game. When Arkansas came into Gainesville, that was the one that you had to have to get to a bowl game. But, man, like, who's going to help you? Like, you get Graham Mertz back. You're going to be able to, groom DJ Lagway as the, quarterback of the future. But is Billy Napier going to be there? I don't know.
Are they keeping Lagway?
Well, I'll say he's a commit. So, I mean.
There's a lot of rumors about him flipping, too.
I mean, I'll read through the schedule as you look at the Lagway stuff. Florida's going to play Miami first weekend of the season. I still feel like Miami's going to be a talented team. They're going to play Samford week 2. They're going to host Texas A&M. They're going to go to Starkville. So you feel like the first 4 games, you could at least be 2-2. I'll give them that 2-2, 3-2.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 2-2 or 3-1. I mean, in that maybe. You then have a bye week. You play UCF. I think UCF is farther along as a program than you are right now, especially under Gus Malzahn. SEC Big 12 matchup there between UCF and Florida.
Yeah.
But then you go on this run in the October, which I think is the most critical. Okay, so you look at Florida. You have Central Florida, Tennessee, and Kentucky. You got to go 2-1 in those games. Like if you go 2-2 in the first 4, you got to go 2-1 because the back half is Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. You might not win a game. Like you legitimately might not win one of those games.
You're looking at it. Florida may have to start 6-1 to make a bowl game. And that's
I mean, there's merit to that. I mean, it's crazy to think about what the back end. Now, look, we obviously, like we said, we don't know who's going to be playing for who at this point in the season, but I think that we all feel confident saying Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State the last 5 are legitimate 12-team playoff contenders.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's crazy. Yep. That's just crazy.
So DJ Lagway, quick note on him.
All
Texas A&M is making a hard push to flip him. He's a Texas native. Mike Elko's getting in there late, trying to get him to flip with how unstable Florida is right now.
Ooh.
But yeah, Florida. I mean, that's asking a lot from Florida to start 6-1. It's a tough schedule. You know, at least they have Miami, Texas A&M, and UCF at home.
Yeah.
You know, I think if any of those 3 were on the road, I'm thinking you're looking at another losing season. You know, even just taken from those first 6 games. Like you said, you never know who's going to be playing, and also, you know, college football, you never know who's going to step up, who's going to take the next step.
Missouri did this year. None of us predicted that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. So somebody down there might do it and lead that team, but it is not looking good.
I wanted to go to the state of Mississippi, where I think that for me, if I'm an Ole Miss fan or a Mississippi State fan, there's good news. One, Mississippi State has historically just gotten shafted by the SEC on scheduling. You know, them and Auburn every year, it's just like, well, here's the hardest schedule in the country. Have fun. You know, Mississippi State, they're going to play Texas. They miss Bama for the first time in forever. They're not going to play LSU, which is a good thing. I mean, you look at that schedule. We'll start with Mississippi State. They're breaking in a new head coach in Jeff Levy. Eastern Kentucky,
who is already on fire recruiting. He's on. This might be the best recruiting class Mississippi State's ever had.
Mississippi State's going to be pretty fun to watch.
He's been in the job for 2 weeks.
It's crazy. This is why college football in December is the best month ever, because it's bowl games, conference title games, recruiting portal. It's a ton of fun. Eastern Kentucky, Arizona State, Toledo. First 3 games. Arizona State's going to be a fun game, but those are all winnable. Florida, all winnable. You get them at home. I
think that's a winnable game for Mississippi State. I do.
You go to Texas, you go to Georgia. Okay, those might be losses. A&M, you're going to host them. You're going to host an Arkansas team. At that point in the season, Arkansas could have an interim head coach. You know, if Sam Pittman gets let go, you're going to play UMass. I just think Mississippi State. That's a bowl game schedule. Like that is a bowl game schedule in year 1 for Jeff Levy. Any thoughts on the Bulldogs schedule? And maybe you talked about the excitement they have.
No, I think you nailed it. I think, you know, they got to get through the Texas and Georgia game. The back half of that schedule, I mean, they play 2 road games, Tennessee and Ole Miss, and the Egg Bowl is always crazy. You got to throw out records for the Egg Bowl always. Yeah. Arkansas could be in trouble. Texas A&M at that point, I mean, there's a possibility they get off to a slow start against or with Mike Elko, but maybe by then they figured themselves out. That's October 19th, right in the middle of that schedule. And they host Missouri. You know, who knows what Missouri is going to look like in November. You know, certainly they have the building blocks to really make a push for the SEC title this year, I think. And you know, they're looking at a playoff spot. They may. Let me look at their schedule because I was about to make a very bold claim.
I can read it for you right here because they'll be coming off of games. I mean, they've got an interesting.
Their road games
playing everybody in the SEC, by the way.
Missouri's playing at UMass. What? I'm reading that right. It says at UMass. Wow, good for UMass.
In Amherst.
So they got to go to Texas A&M, to Alabama, to South Carolina, and to Mississippi State for their road games. Home games: Arkansas, Oklahoma, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Boston College, Buffalo, Murray State. I think I was getting ready to say that they can host a playoff game. I think that's being a little ambitious.
Yeah.
For Missouri, but I mean, they are certainly knocking on the door of the playoff because to host, you have to be top 8, top 8, top 9.
The first four get a bye.
Yep.
The
So
next
5.
4, so top 8 essentially.
So top
right?
8. Top 8 to host.
We're not good at math.
No, that's why we're doing this and not something else. Missouri, I mean, I think they'll be knocking on the door. They'll be kicking around that 12 spot, the back half of that playoff, maybe enough to host.
I'm I mentioned the Mississippi schools. Man, Ole Miss. I mean, they're going to start Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern. They should be 4-0. Kentucky.
They should be 6-0 going to Baton Rouge.
I mean, they should go 6-0 Baton Rouge. And will you kind of look at it like they're going to play LSU, Oklahoma at home, Georgia at home. Like that schedule, that's a playoff worthy schedule too. Like Ole Miss should be a top 12 team. If obviously, I believe that Jackson Dart is coming back. So that's something
Lane Kiffin said he was.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin leaked that he was in a press conference. If he does, I mean, you got to feel good about your chances with the weapons that they're going to bring in. You're already seeing they're hitting the portal really hard. Lane Kiffin's a must follow on Twitter. That schedule, and that they should be a top 12 team.
Yeah, but I've got a lot of reservations about Ole Miss. I don't know, maybe it's because he flirted with Auburn and left Auburn hanging. Maybe that's why. But this has never happened at Ole Miss. Now it's easy to say that it won't happen, but just because it hasn't, you can't say that it won't, right? Mm-hmm. You can't say that they won't make the playoff. You can't say they won't win the SEC just because they haven't. And this is the best they've ever been. It's fact, and especially year over year, or at least in 50, 60 years, it's the best that they've ever been. So, they've kind of got that historical hurdle to get over, putting a lot of pressure. I don't know how much they talk about it. Lane Kiffin probably doesn't, knowing him from what he says publicly, which is basically everything. He probably doesn't worry about that, just worries about his team this year. But, I mean, they are good. They are good. I still have reservations about that defense. You talk about the weapons they're bringing in. Almost all of them are on the offensive side of the ball. Are they going to have a defense? Because with their schedule this year, they may not need it. I mean, they really may not.
I mean, I don't expect them. I know you and I talked about this the other day. I don't expect them to win the SEC, but can they sneak into the top 12 like that? Like I think that's doable to be that 10th, 11th, 12th team. Dr. Bob in the comments. Dr. Bob jumping in to hate on the entire SEC except for Auburn and Vanderbilt. Those two teams will match up in Jordan-Hare Stadium this year. We were talking about that. Will, any other thoughts about this schedule? I mean, another A&M's going to host Notre Dame in College Station. So you have Notre Dame coming down to be a part of, a cultish-like atmosphere in South Bend, taking part in a cultish-like atmosphere in College Station. I'm tired. I can't stand A&M. I don't like Texas A&M.
You love Mike Elko, so you better be careful with all that talk.
I do. And they got
A&M's got a very favorable schedule.
Well, they are playing the fighting Will Wades of McNeese State. Now, Will Wade coaches basketball, but McNeese State's coming to College Station there. But you are right. I mean, look, they're playing Bowling Green. Tech fans know all about Bowling Green coming in to your home
Scott
stadium.
Leffler's. Auburn fans know all about Bowling Green too, if they choose to remember 2012. I try not to.
Well, I think overall, like when we look at the schedule, it's a loaded slate. Will, I want to get your thoughts because I tweeted this out and had some people comment. Look, college football's changing. Like we're entering a new era. But man, this is gonna be fun to watch. Like as frustrating as it might be, and I'm a guy that loves the regionality of college football. Like I loved that. It's what made it special. We fight for the SEC. Folks in the Midwest fight for the Big 10, Big 12, stuff like that. I don't know who's fighting for the ACC. Basketball fans, maybe. That being said, like this is gonna be fun. Like it's really gonna be fun to watch all this. Your thoughts as we enter what is a new era of college football with this schedule release?
I mean, what I like about it is the SEC, it changes it up. I mean, it does kind of get old playing the same teams all the time and then going to 14 teams and sticking with an 8-game conference schedule. You're playing the same teams all the time, and you may go 7-8 years without playing somebody on the other side. Like Auburn and Florida didn't play for, it was what, 2014, I think? It was almost last year they came to Auburn, and then Auburn didn't go to Gainesville until 2019.
Yeah, so 5 years.
So 5 years. I mean, that was a long time, and I barely remember that time Florida came to Auburn because of where the two programs were at the time. So it's easy to forget when teams last played each other, and they're in the same conference. And not going with divisions will allow for more of these matchups. Speaking more to that regionality that you talked about, but out of conference games are a lot of fun because there's matchups that you don't see a ton, and that is pretty much going away from expanding to 16 teams, going no divisions. The Big Ten, they've got what, 16, 18? I think they have 8. Do they have 18?
I think they're going to have 18, something like that.
They've got so many. I mean, you only put 12 on a schedule. You can't really go out of conference. And then after what this playoff committee decided to do, there's no incentive to go outside your conference and play a top team.
Yeah.
But we've talked about it plenty of times before. The SEC and the Big Ten are about to own everything. And I think the next 2 years, I may even be late saying that. It may just be this year. 2024, they may own everything. But the top teams are going to be in those two conferences. So it's not really going to matter. But I think you're losing a lot of the big non-conference matchups.
Yeah, and a reminder, I mean, this is a 1-year deal. Like, they're going to have to revisit this because this 8-game conference schedule with the expansion is just for 2024. So it could look completely different from then on. Like, we could see the SEC go to 9-game conference schedules. Shout out, because I know Ralph is watching, and Dr. Bob. So this is a big-time matchup. Week 3 in Norman, Oklahoma. John Sumrall's Tulane's Green Wave are heading to the Sooners, which should be a fun game. Tulane, Oklahoma, which was actually a fun game a couple years ago when Oklahoma was supposed to go down there. And Tulane almost won that game up in Norman. So I don't know, man. I'm excited for where this is how I feel about it. You cannot like what's happening in college football, the money grab, the big media deals that are controlling everything. But at the end of the day, next fall, you, me, and everybody that tunes into this and everyone across the country are going to want to watch what the product is. And that's not going to change. And that's what the people making decisions know. Like, people are going to bicker about it. They're going to argue about it on social media and online. End of the day, they're going to watch the football games. And I'm kind of in that boat too. Yep,
me too. I'll be watching. I'll be watching all of them.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, Notre Dame, that's going to be fun. I mean, and a lot of this is just theatrics for the fans. It's seeing two helmets hit against each other that you don't see a lot of. Texas A&M, Notre Dame, 2 great helmets. Miami and Florida, 2 historically great helmets. Fun to see. Georgia and Clemson in Atlanta.
Have you seen that Georgia and Clemson are about to play like 8 out of the next 10 years? Which is great. That's a great long-time rivalry.
So, yeah, historical rivalry.
See, how would you feel about this? How would you feel about this, Will? Let's just paint a picture here. This is going to upset some Tech fans, but there's been a large, if we go to 9 conference games, okay, let's just say the Georgia-Auburn rivalry just kind of gets cut, because it's one of those that we've talked about, could be on the chopping block. We'll see what happens. If it were to
be a travesty, Deep South's oldest rivalry, you got to play it.
Agreed. But if it did, if Georgia played Clemson, I know Clemson's not in the SEC, but they started to really hone in on the Georgia-Clemson border war. Would you like to see Auburn, Georgia Tech rekindle it to kind of say, okay, we're gonna if we lost the Georgia rivalry, let's try to bring back the Auburn, Georgia Tech rivalry?
Yes, that'll be tough though, because Georgia and Georgia Tech play every year.
Well, I say that as if Georgia Tech would drop that game, because that's also been a conversation if the ACC scheduling happens, and could that be? I don't know. It'd be interesting.
Look, okay, so you've got Auburn, Georgia Tech, which is old school historical rivalry. Georgia, Clemson, Miami, Florida, Florida State. Sounds to me like we should have an SEC ACC scheduling alliance.
The only problem,
play these old rivalries.
South Carolina, like who they play, NC State, like who are we going to give them?
Clemson.
So you're going to have Clemson have 2 ACC, SEC games?
Just put those teams, put them in the SEC.
Play it like the Army Navy game after the regular season. Just do that. It doesn't matter. No, I agree.
They play the Iron Bowl in February. I think the first one ever. Play games in February. Whatever. People will watch. People will go.
Is Legion Field still around? Can they go play that game there?
You don't want to play that game. You don't want to play there.
How about in Montgomery, the Crampton Bowl? Can we get something going on there?
Good luck.
There's nothing going on in Montgomery.
Nothing going on in Troy either.
Yeah, nothing going on in Troy. No new updates. Ralph can't defend himself. So typically when people can't defend themselves, we don't call them out, but we are going to call them out. Troy loses their head coach, big time loss. And Dr. Bob, roll wave.
Speaking of that, just a little quick aside, Troy coaching update for everybody, since we're the 2 experts.
Yeah.
A lot of talk about Carnell Williams. He's the name people are putting out for that job. You're going to have to pay. You're going to have to give him that John Summerall money. I looked it up. Summerall made $1 million last year, highest paid coach in Troy history. Cadillac makes $900,000 for Auburn, so you're going to have to pony up. You're not getting cheap. You're not going to cheap out going for a position coach.
If they offered him 1.25, you think he goes?
Yeah. Why? Why wouldn't he? He
Because
can be a
I
head
will
coach
say
without
this,
having to be a coordinator.
I don't think that
Come on.
he's going to get the head coaching job at Auburn. That's just me. I think there was a really
He's
good case for him too, but if Freeze has success, like I don't know.
no Cadillac. He doesn't have nearly enough experience to be
True.
a Power Five, especially an SEC head coach. He's never been a coordinator. He's only been a running backs coach at any level. You know, he coached. I'm blanking on the name of that football league that debunked because they didn't pay anybody. Steve Spurrier coached in it. What was it? The AAF.
The Atlanta
He coached.
Legends.
He coached the Birmingham team, the running backs for that team. He's only been a running backs coach. You know, he just doesn't have the experience. But you know, he's great. Coaches for Auburn, literally for Auburn. I mean,
Yeah.
not just at Auburn, for Auburn. So I mean, he's great in his role, but I don't. It's hard to say. He'd have to leave, and I don't think he doesn't act like he wants to leave Auburn.
I don't blame you. Dr. Bob with little doing his intern work. Summerall getting $3 million a year at Tulane with a guarantee of indoor practice bubble and other facilities upgrades.
Is
And
that a
highest
jab?
paid coach in the group of 5?
Is that a jab at Troy's facilities?
I don't know.
Sounds like it.
Did you see the jab that Willie Fritz threw back at Tulane, saying
Yeah,
like
I did.
it's nice for them to kind of, I don't know. I'll let Dr. Bob handle that. I don't dabble in the American Conference because I choose not to. But also, Ralph, yes, UAB is in the American Conference. Just want to let you know.
Yes. Yeah. Ralph could not believe that.
I do want to give Ralph his credit due because he isn't here. We're ragging on him. LSU terrified to schedule Troy. They opted for Kane Womack's South Alabama to welcome in. So they did not want to pay for Troy's next head coach and a loss. So they said, we'll bring in South Alabama. But hey, we got a lot more to get to. We're going to talk NCAA and just the absolute mess and fiasco that they are, this 2-time waiver deal. And then we'll talk a little bit of Georgia on the back end, the quarterback position as well, when we come back here on the Crowded Booth.
Your soap is ugh, and your body wash is a synthetic detergent. But you're not a dish. You're a man. Switch to Dr. Squatch Natural Soap for Men. For men who build things. Open pickle jars on the first try. Slay dragons. And let their daughters braid their hair. Men who like to feel good and smell titillating. Dr. Squatch takes you places you never thought you'd go. Naked.
All right, back here on the Crowded Booth. If
Bryce,
your college,
how do you feel now about that Dr. Squatch commercial? But are you like a for real man now? Are you going to let your daughter braid your hair?
Oh, now that I'm going to be a dad? Is that
Yeah.
what you're asking? Yeah, no, I definitely will. I
So you are a real man.
I am. Yeah, I almost even wore the Dr. Squatch robe on the show tonight, which would have been absolutely phenomenal. And if they, it's good. Check out. Use code Bryce Coon for Dr. Squatch. It's fantastic. Ved, how are you doing on a fine evening? Just hopping in, saying hello. We appreciate you. All right. Now, Will, I don't know how many people paid attention to this. I just want to talk more about the incompetence of the NCAA and what they do. If anyone's living under a rock, and right now it's most impactful in the college basketball realm, but it also can be impactful in football as well, where 2-time transfers were to be granted a waiver. We've seen some of the waivers go through, and then we've seen some of them just get stalled and denied, and it's affected a lot of college basketball programs, but it's more the NCAA as a whole. So the NCAA actually just backed down from this 2-time transfer waiver for now, and I'll give you the example. So West Virginia's Raekwon Battle, a 2-time transfer, was granted a 2-week window where he'll be eligible to play, and the NCAA has since released a statement saying it will appeal, but will not keep players in similar situations from playing within the time span. So all of this says basketball players can now play for the next 2 weeks. It's going to hit home for a lot of teams, especially down here at LSU. They needed their point guard to play. He's going to be able to play this weekend against Texas, and what should be a fun matchup. That being said, well, the NCAA, I just think when we talk about being able to bring down the hammer, bring down the ruling, the NCAA is a joke. Like, it's an absolute weak spot. And I sit in the camp of whether it's disciplining your kids, whether it's coaching a middle school baseball team like you and I did, once you give them the leeway to do things, it's really hard to go back on your word. You can't really enforce anything. So the NCAA is the equivalent of bad middle school baseball coaches, which we were not. Your thoughts on that?
The NCAA, they're just they're just a joke. I mean, they have no power. Once the Supreme Court said, nope, you need to allow these players to get paid at least for their name, image, and likeness, then that ended all the power of the NCAA, the perceived power that the NCAA had, because they didn't really have any. It was just perceived. Everybody just kind of went along with it. Everybody was breaking the rules on the back end anyway. You know, the thing about transferring and waivers, I think if you're going to transfer, no matter what, you need to put in a waiver anyway if you want to play immediately. Just have the rule in place. If you're going to transfer, you got to sit out a year, but we'll listen to any and all waivers and just have a fair evaluation process and judgment process on it. You know, take all the facts. I mean, obviously you only get the facts that are given in the waiver. So that's going to be on the players and their people to put together, you know, all the facts in the waivers. Yeah. Why they're going to transfer. And if it's a legitimate reason, then they should be able to play. It doesn't matter how many times you transfer, but it has to be legitimate. It can't be to go find a new NIL deal worth, you know, a couple $100,000 more than you made at your last place. I don't think that's legitimate, but, you know, because you got to have rules in place. And it's not college athletics is not professional athletics, no matter how much people want it to be. Even what the new president of the NCAA might want it to be. Yeah. Which just is a whole nother debacle. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. So, you know, they just need to have a legitimate, thorough process of how to handle these things, and you know, and consider, you know, 18 to 22-year-olds, they change their mind all the time, and if they have a legitimate reason why they don't want to be somewhere, you know, you say Raekwon Battle, you know, I was reading up on him. He claims his mental wellness. Backstory on him: he grew up on a Native American reservation in Washington. He went and visited West Virginia during his transfer process, found out that the head coach at West Virginia also grew up with his mother on a Native American reservation, and there's a connection. So, you know, that's a good story. I think it's kind of legitimate there. You know, things like that. You know, if the NCAA is what they claim to be in this position to, you know, look after the wellness and improve performance of college athletes, then that would fall under that statement. So they need to stick to their word. That's their problem.
Well, and the crazy thing is we're about to have a 2-week window where these players can just play without penalty, and then this could just be taken away. It's just we just lost you for a second there. Your audio
makes no sense.
Yeah. Did you also know this? So it's a pair of lawsuits, one from the attorney generals of 7 states, plus the one from Raekwon Battle. And look, we can have more conversations about attorney generals getting in on the college football action from the state of Florida. And I don't know if you saw, too, in Georgia, they have now petitioned that the Orange Bowl should be – we're not going to talk about that right now. But
I got 2 words for that. Good luck.
Exactly. But here's the problem, and Dr. Bob points this out. You know, obviously one of the biggest names was Tez Walker this past football season. Fantastic player, and I agree with what Dr. Bob says. He says Tez Walker should not have been counted as a 2-time transfer. North Carolina Central up here in Durham didn't play a snap in 2020. You can't – it was even there to play. Like, that's just they're counting 2020 against a kid when FCS really didn't play. Like, they didn't. I mean, I know I'm wearing a Mercer shirt. Mercer played like 2 games in 2020, and then they played spring seasons. NC Central didn't play at all. So I just think it's crazy. And when you get to where the NCAA is going now with like just this gray area, it's a constant gray area that they sit in where I think make a decision. Like, say that you can do this or not. But, you know, it's a potential violation of antitrust law. And I'm with you. Like, coaches created this, by the way. Like, if people don't like it, coaches leaving and moving freely have created this. You know, so I just think that the NCAA is so far behind on all of it. And, Will, it's part of where I think this sport is going. I think, which we'll bring it to this. Did you see, like, the proposed new subdivision of college football they manage themselves? Like, what are your thoughts? I don't want that to happen, but I feel like it could be going there.
I mean, what eventually I think will happen will the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball will end up buying, quote unquote, these programs and making them part of their minor league system, because that's a lot of cost and that's a lot of money that these schools are going to have to come up. These schools and programs, it'll probably just end up being the programs themselves have to come up with. Like, your football program will kind of be separate from your athletic department, your baseball program, your basketball programs. They'll all kind of be separate, and they're going to need to find that money to keep these up, keep the facilities up, keep everything up. And it's not going to be on the school to facilitate that. It's a very changing landscape. It's going to become professional sports, which it has been just under the guise of collegiate sports, but it will be all out in the open for everybody to see.
It will be. And I think too, as we kind of wrap this conversation, like it's just small instances like this, like every single step of the way, they have just dropped the ball on everything. And it's just ultimately leading to what I feel like it's like you have a balloon that's about to pop and that needle's just getting closer and closer. And as it does, like you really have to wonder what the sport's going to look like. And I keep saying this, like I tell folks this, and people got mad at me after the Florida State thing. And like the Florida State thing, you can bring into that. Like Florida State's going to be fine in the long run, by the way, guys. They're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But the middleman is not. Like your mid-tier programs are not going to be okay because your lower tier FBS programs will just sink down to the FCS where they can be national championship contenders. But your teams that are way too good for the FCS level are not going to be okay because now it's going to be like this weird subdivision where your Georgias, your Ohio States, your Alabamas are playing up here. And I'll throw the name out there, but your Illinois, your Georgia Techs, your Vanderbilts, what do they do? Like, what do you do? I don't know what you do to best position yourself for the next, other than win.
You talk about the middleman. Let's just be honest. You take out Clemson, you take out Florida State, you take out Miami, even just about every other football program in the ACC is basically irrelevant. I mean, they haven't been competing.
UNC has money, and that UNC's
got the money. Their basketball program really picks them up and gets some attention.
Yeah.
But the other programs have not been competing at the top of the sport for a number of years. Most of them nearly a decade. They're not playing in New Year's Six games. They're not getting big bowl games. They're not pulling off big upsets to get attention. They're not doing those things. A lot of the Big 12. I mean, now you take out Texas and Oklahoma, look what's left. Oklahoma State. That's really the closest thing to a national brand. Well, I guess they're getting Colorado thanks to Dion, but other than that, there's not the national brands which are at the top of the sport. And those are the middlemen you're talking about. Like they're still better than Ralph, your Sun Belts. Most
Max.
of your AAC, they're better than the MAC, Mountain West, especially now, although the Mountain West might be taking the Pac-12 spot, but then this is only benefiting the national brands, the brands that have competed at the top of the sport for the majority of the last decade. Because again, it's a what have you done for me lately world. That's just the world. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah. I see the comment down there from CDawg18. He says teams like Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Miami, and NC State have not done their jobs to make the ACC respected. I'd argue NC State's been a very solid program under Dave Doran.
Yeah,
they've been respectable.
Really
but nobody expects NC State to make the playoff. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
No one expects Georgia Tech to make the playoff. No one expects Virginia Tech to make the playoff. Virginia schools should be way better than they are, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. But Miami is at least a national player in the I would say like in recruiting. Like Mario Cristobal's going to recruit. Now, can they coach? I don't know. I have no clue if they can coach in game. But they can recruit. Yeah, and they're going to be able to do that. I just think it's really interesting to see where college football's going.
And I just don't want to, I've got that nickname that I'm the SEC homer. But let's be honest about the SEC. Mississippi State, Florida's been really down. South Carolina hasn't really competed. Arkansas, other than the blip with Bobby Petrino, really hasn't been a national power. Auburn for a lot of years, the last 3 years, Auburn hasn't been there. So it's not just a symptom. It's just not a problem in the smaller conferences. The bigger conferences have this problem too.
Mm-hmm.
These smaller schools are just lucky that they're in the right situation to keep them up and really be honest, keep that money flowing in. That's what it's all about.
It's about money, and the thing that you mentioned that makes a difference of why people are not going to, exclude the Mississippi States, the Arkansas, the Auburns, because of the money factor. They're always going to have the deep pockets. And then, look, you can talk about the Big Ten. Look, Rutgers. Rutgers is a perfect example of this because with all of this stuff going on, you might have just lost your ability to go to a bowl game. You might have signed up for a bigger paycheck, but now you're going 4-8 every year.
Yeah.
And if
just
that's
about everybody in the Big Ten, the old Big Ten West, Iowa, which by the way, Go ahead. Go apply online for Iowa's offensive coordinator job. It is posted online for the public.
It's just
Go
not
ahead.
a real thing, man. It's just
Spruce up your resume. Try to get that job. Minnesota, they're not making a bowl game. Come on. Minnesota.
I like PJ
Illinois,
Fleck,
you
too.
said. Purdue. I mean,
Purdue's awful.
it's going to be it's going to be a great season just for those programs to make a bowl game.
I want to
come to.
call you out. Louisville is making a statement across college football, Will. They did it this year.
I didn't say Louisville.
You said they didn't matter. Okay. Louisville lives matter.
When did I say Louisville didn't matter?
No, you just said that Clemson, Florida State, Miami are the only teams in the ACC that matter, or something like that. It's okay.
that have been it's basically a national brand over most of the last decade.
True.
Plus.
Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about this Georgia quarterback situation. Had a chance to talk with Palmer Thomas today. We're going to have a full episode on that tomorrow, but wanted to get Will's thoughts on this quarterback situation. Wild stuff happening. And also the transparency of Matt Rule, how the man has just come out and said what it cost, and now he's courting one of the most coveted quarterback prospects in the country. We'll be right back after this. Hey, everyone. Bryce Kuhn here with the Crowded Booth, and I'm excited to partner with Milton and Drew McCluskey as they get on their new venture, the Cajun Cousins Company. It's an all-stop shop for some of the best food and atmosphere entertainment that you're going to be able to have, especially this fall as college football is right around the corner. What is Cajun Cousins Company? Well, Milt decided to start this business back in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where they're based out of. Drew initially joined him after spending some time with the Saints, but they offer catered Cajun delicacies such as crawfish boils and Aunt Dottie's jambalaya. They bring everything and they can set up anywhere. Look, folks, they're passionate about giving people a reason to gather and to get to the culture that they love so much. They're expanding that brand to the low country of South Carolina, the upstate area, and other areas of the Southeast. So look, if you're going to throw that tailgate party or you're going to have a big gathering, reach out to Cajun Cousins Company today over at CajunCousinsCO.com to get that quote. Tell them the Crowded Booth sent you. We can't wait to see what they have in store this fall. Back here in the Crowded Booth.
You can't show that comment, but it's cracking me up.
I didn't even see.
You can't put it up there.
God. Yeah, we can't do that. Can't do that. We do appreciate you.
See what I just put in our private chat? Will Shepard just announced
Colorado
tonight. He's going to Colorado.
Colorado has gotten 7 offensive linemen in the past week, by the way. Love it or hate it, they're working hard to do what they need to do to correct the mistakes. So that is what it is. Wanted to get this before we kind of touch. We got about 13 more minutes here. Alex, appreciate you tuning in. He goes, if FSU should be mad at anyone, it should be Louisville for getting exposed. No. While I do understand that, if FSU wants to be mad at somebody, they need to be mad, not at Boo Corrigan, but whatever the other guy is, for coming out 2 weeks before and saying, hey, most deserving is not in our vocabulary, because they set the standard 2 or 3 weeks before. And I don't know, Will, maybe we do an episode, looking back at this. I don't know. I feel like it's just been hammered so much. Florida State needs to be mad at the committee. Don't be mad at Alabama. Don't be mad at Georgia. Don't be mad at, be mad at the committee, because I think they've gone most deserving in years prior, and then they acted like that wasn't part of what they did this year. And that's the problem with all of it. But
it is.
Yeah, that's where I stay with that. All right, let's talk here. We might lose a couple fans or viewers in this, but that's fine. Is Georgia in trouble at the quarterback position? We're going to have a full episode tomorrow morning. Palmer Thomas details this. He's going to tell you, in fact, Will, I'm going to make a GIF out of it. Palmer Thomas, and I'll tease it, he says this is how much percentage that Georgia fans should be worried about it. He says 0.
That's what I was about to say.
Your thoughts on the situation? Obviously, for folks that don't know, Dylan Raiola receives a crystal ball to Nebraska, going on an official visit this weekend. The last weekend before signing day, which is massive. If you follow recruiting, if you follow anything with that college football aspect, getting a kid in the weekend before signing day, massive. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, been texting back and forth with the current kid that's crystal ball to Auburn, who's in LSU this weekend. That's going to be a very fun race to monitor over the next 4 or 5 days. In Cohen Eccles, the interior offensive lineman. All right, let's well, it's okay. It's all right.
Thanks for the bad news.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's okay. I'm going to talk. We'll see how it goes. I haven't put a crystal ball prediction yet, but I'm still leaning Auburn in that race, by the way.
So Bryce is tampering for LSU.
I'm tampering.
Confirmed.
Yeah,
Bryce is working for LSU.
I cleaned out all of these and I couldn't find it anywhere. Even the drawers. So I got to go to the closet next to see if I can find that LSU check, the pay stub. All right, let's talk about this. Georgia can trouble the quarterback position. Rayola potentially going to Nebraska. I think that really is going to happen. You're going to hear more about it. Your thoughts on this? Because if Carson Beck stays, which he hasn't formally announced it, but that's the feeling. That's what the intel is telling the Georgia insiders. You're going to have Beck, Stockton, which I think was the better quarterback between him and Vandegrift to begin with, and then this Ryan Puglisi guy, who is a really, really great athlete, baseball player that could get selected in the MLB draft. I think they're set up pretty well, like especially if Beck stays. I don't think there's really a big reason to worry. Palmer doesn't say this because I don't think he can in the official capacity, but I know you also feel like there is a high risk, high reward that comes with Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, I don't have an affiliation like Palmer does, so I think I can I can say what I want to. Dylan Raiola, and this is the way that I put it, reeks of bust. The kid has played at 5 high schools in 4 years. That is a huge red flag for me. And, I kind of think it is for Georgia as well, because it kind of seems like with all this Nebraska talk that Kirby Smart says, look, if you want to go to Nebraska, go to Nebraska. I mean, that's on you. If you don't want to come be a part of our program and compete for a national championship every year, that's fine. Go ahead. But looking at the Georgia quarterback room, Carson Beck, I don't see a reason why he would leave. Sure, he had a great year, but look at the quarterbacks in this class: Caleb Williams, Drake May, Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels. I mean, those guys, they're top 10 picks. At least top 20, at least. So you're looking at probably second round, maybe even third round for Beck. And Beck is a really good quarterback. He just has only had 1 year starting. If he can come back to Georgia and have a similar year like he did this past year, that boosts him a lot. And it really won't matter who else is going into the draft at the quarterback position, because if he just replicates what he did this year, you're looking at a first round quarterback, no doubt. I agree with you. You said Gunnar Stockton, think he's better than Brock Vandegrift. I agree. Gunnar Stockton, really, really good. I guess he redshirted this year. I think you would know better than me, especially if talking to Palmer. He got a red shirt this year. He's really good. Good athlete, 6'1". I mean,
he's good. He's just good.
I don't have film on him. 6'1", 215. He's he's a good athlete. I know he can run a little bit, can bring some dynamicism to that offense. Just comparing height and weight, Vandegrift 6'3", 210. He ran pretty well too, but I think Stockton's a little bit better runner than Vandegrift. So you can do a couple more things. And you said, how did I say his name? Puglisi. Coming in, I mean, that's your third quarterback. I mean, your third string quarterback, really, especially for a Georgia, is kind of an emergency quarterback. So I think Georgia's happy if they're 2 deep at quarterback. I don't think they feel the need to be 3 deep with the quality that they have. They just got to keep them healthy. So yeah, Georgia, they don't have anything to worry about at quarterback. And you look at their offense, I don't think it's very demanding on a quarterback, especially the adjustments Mike Bobo made this year, going with a first-year starter with Beck compared to the way Todd Monken ran it, and especially 2 years ago. Stetson Bennett's second-year starting, there was obviously some wrinkles, some different things, relying on the run game. And you look at Georgia's running back room, I think it's going to be better. It's going to be deeper than it was this past year. So I think they'll run the ball better, which will help the quarterback. You won't have Brock Bowers to throw to, so that'll be interesting to see what Georgia does at receiver. Didn't they get a big transfer?
Not yet,
already?
but London Humphreys is probably going to go to Georgia.
Thought he committed. I don't know. Maybe he didn't commit. But he'll. I mean, I think he'll just strengthen that wide receiver room. I think he'll be their number 1 receiver. Georgia, they're in no trouble with the quarterback position. They've got the depth, they've got the talent, and I think they've got an offensive staff that there's been the coordinator left, but it felt like there's still a lot of continuity on that staff just with a new play caller.
Mike Bobo's a good coordinator, by the way, too.
Don't listen to Georgia fans online. Mike Bobo's a good offensive coordinator.
He's a really good offensive coordinator. Will, I got this message early in the week and I said we would do it. And I don't know if you're prepared to do it, but I've got it up here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bowl games this weekend on Saturday. So we're officially entering bowl season. Do you want to pick them here? Like, do you want to go and go
pick
with some bowl game picks here, Dr. Bob? If you're in here,
pick 'em.
Ralph, if you're watching, join in on the join in, or if you're home, join in, and we'll go here. And this is completely.
Oh, I'm glad
unfair.
you're bringing this up. I got to do my Capital One Bowl Mania picks.
Ooh,
I
maybe
gotta
after this,
get
I'm going
those
to
in.
launch we need to launch a Crowd of Booth one.
Yes.
See how the community does here. Okay, so let's start with bowl game number 1, 11 a.m. Eastern. This is a 10 a.m. kickoff for me on Saturday morning. Georgia Southern versus Ohio in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. How you feel? What's the spread? I mean, do we even have spreads here? Like, what are we looking at?
Let's see.
Do you want to pick it straight up, or do you want to pick against the spread?
I've got the spread right here. Georgia Southern -3.5. Yeah, let's pick against the spread. Let's do it.
Okay. All right, so we're
pick
taking
all these
Dr.
against the
Bob.
spread.
Dr. Bob, lock in a brand new spreadsheet. We're going bowl game pick 'em here, and then I'll send you Ralph's picks if he doesn't get in. But we're going to go obviously just the Saturday games, and you know what? We'll also throw in the Monday game, the famous Toastery Bowl in Charlotte, which is replacing the Bahamas Bowl, by the way.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. So Myrtle Beach, Georgia Southern, Ohio. Georgia Southern -3. How you lean?
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't really know anything about either of these teams. I pull up the game preview on ESPN. It shows the last 5 games for both teams. Ohio comes in winning 4 of the last 5. Georgia Southern comes in losing 4 of the last 5. Did I say Ohio losing? They've won 4 of their last 5. I don't know what I said.
Yeah. Ohio State, or not Ohio State.
Ohio.
But yeah, Ohio.
The Bobcats, not the Buckeyes. The Bobcats.
Yeah.
The Sun Belt, much tougher conference than the MAC. Ohio comes in 9-3. I don't really know anything, but I'm going to take Ohio +3.5 in this one. They won 9 games this year. Don't care that it's almost a home game playing in your favorite Sun Belt city, Conway, South Carolina.
Yes, because they're not really. It's the Myrtle Beach Bowl.
Don't care
in
that it's
Conway.
almost a home game. That's 3.5.
Okay, so we're going to go with – I'm going Ohio +3.5 as well. That's where I sit with this. I'm going to pull up my app here so I can look at all these. Yeah, I'll take Ohio +3.5. That's where I sit with that one as we go bowl game pick 'em. Let's go to the next one. Do you want to pick the odds on the Celebration Bowl, or do we just want to skip it?
I do.
Okay.
She's not watching, but this is Katie's favorite bowl game.
Meanwhile, people don't know who
it
is.
That's tongue in cheek. That's tongue in cheek. She's
excited.
very stressed out.
Howard against Florida A&M. I'm taking Florida A&M -6.5.
Florida A&M. I mean, they could be -26.5, and I would take them.
I'm putting money on it right now. Live betting as we go. So we go to Florida A&M -6.5.
Florida A&M.
Let's go to the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Going to just be an hour away, but I still won't be there. And it is Jacksonville State versus Louisiana. Well, I've got it right now as Jacksonville State, JSU, first ever bowl game, -2.5. Where do you sit here with this?
Give me Jacksonville State -2.5. Rich Rod is back.
I'm placing these live bets. I'm betting actual money on this, by the way, sir, as we do this.
Rich Rod's back. I mean, Louisiana Monroe has a job opening. He was the OC there. I don't. You probably know better than I do if there's any traction there. But no, I really like what Rich Rod has done down there, getting another chance at a head coaching gig. He's had a really nice year. Figured things out with that quarterback. A really good runner. He's a freshman, I think. I really like what he's done. Power run game out of the spread. I love it.
Brian Vincent was actually hired at ULM, so they already filled that position. He was at New Mexico, so unfortunately, you're not going to get to see him next year when the Lobos.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Brian Harsin was rumored for the New Mexico job, and he didn't get it. It was Bronco Mendenhall.
Jeez,
God, could you imagine? That would be the greatest Auburn G5 home atmosphere ever if Brian Harsin was coaching New Mexico.
Oh, hands down.
God, that would be great.
What would be better, Will? That one or a UCF team still in the American? So still technically a Group of 5 game.
Coached by
Gus.
That would be a much different environment. It would not be. I don't think there would be really any volatility.
Brian Harsin will need an extra security detail for if they were to come back to
he will.
Auburn.
He will. You know, the further away we get from Gus Malzahn's end at Auburn, the more people are speaking fondly of his 8 years at Auburn.
Fair enough. All right, we go to the Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl.
What an awful sponsorship.
Just the best one, the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl, which unfortunately is no longer the bowl game that Tech's going to be in.
Boo.
Miami, Ohio versus App State in Orlando. Awful stadium. I'll just go ahead and say right now, absolutely terrible dumpster fire down in Orlando that they have down there. All right, what are you going with this one? I've got right here App State minus 6.5.
Yep, I'm going the underdog. Miami, Ohio plus 6.5. They've won 5 straight. Won all of them by 2 scores, except Ball State on the road. They won 17-15 to close out their year. It looks like they won the MAC. They won 11 games. So give me Miami of Ohio. They traditionally have a good offense. It'll be better weather than they're used to playing, at least the last couple months. So probably get some points up against App State.
I'm going to go Miami, Ohio plus 6.5 as well.
Just copying me.
I got Miami, Ohio money line plus 205. I don't know how I feel about that one, but go Miami, Ohio plus 6.5. All right, now we go to one that's near and dear to Will's heart.
Yeah, you don't even have to ask.
The Isleta,
you know who I'm taking.
Is it Isleta? The Isleta, New Mexico Bowl. Can we get some actual sponsors that make sense? New Mexico State versus Fresno State. I'm taking New Mexico State. Plus
New Mexico State.
Right. Nothing to talk about there.
Diego Pavia, confirmed baller.
Yes.
Short King, no doubt. Scared of nobody. And it's basically a home game. So, New Mexico State.
One of the best bowl names ever. The Starco Brands LA Bowl hosted by Gronk. This is just the LA Bowl, by the way. And,
hosted by Gronk. What happened to Jimmy Kimmel?
I don't know. Dr. Bob, by the way, the New Mexico Fresno State we're taking New Mexico State minus 3.5 in that game.
Yes.
UCLA Boise State, first game to feature a Power 5 team in Inglewood, California. They're going to play this game at SoFi. So, this is out of the bad bowl games to play in. This is pretty nice. For UCLA gets to kind of stay home.
You're in Inglewood.
Well, LA sucks, but yeah. And it's hosted by Gronk. I don't know what that means. Does that mean he's going to I don't know what that means. He presents a trophy, I guess.
Probably.
So, here we go. UCLA, Boise State. I've got this at UCLA minus 4.5.
This one's
UCLA
weird.
Quarterback, by the way, I don't think.
Right. Yeah, you got some opt-outs. I think
we're going to be better prepared next week, by the way.
I would imagine that Boise has some guys in the portal. They did a really nice job to rally and win the Mountain West. I'm going to take Boise plus, 4.5? I'll take Boise.
Yeah. I'm going, honestly, our lines might look the same. We're going to have to differ at some point. But I'm going Boise State plus 4.5. Well, I agree with you. I think UCLA not really having a quarterback. Chip Kelly is going to keep his job. But Boise State, this game's going to mean more to them to knock off a Power 5 opponent. No doubt. So I'm going to go there. And then Clayton GT over in our Discord, he goes, did y'all realize that New Mexico State played a 13-game regular season? Yes, we in fact did. So New Mexico State's going to play 15 games this year. Wild. All right, now we're going to go to the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. Armpit of the South, Shreveport, Louisiana.
So you're going, is what you just told everybody.
That game is at 9:15. I think I could. I don't even know. Maybe you and I just sit here and live stream on StreamYard on YouTube. And Cal versus Texas Tech. There might be 47 people in the stands for this game up in Shreveport. It's going to be cold too. Apparently.
Yeah. Explain this. You're the first day of bowl games, and you get a California and a Texas team to come to Louisiana.
Yes, I don't know how to pronounce that first word,
Bossier.
But I do. Bossier. I was going to say Bossier.
Listen, here's the thing: you're in the South. You don't have to think too hard about pronouncing names. There's a city in Tennessee spelled the same way as a very famous city in Italy. Not pronounced the same. It's pronounced Milan, not Milan. Milan.
It's like Cairo and Cairo in Georgia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Cal, Texas Tech. I got Cal minus I got Texas Tech -3 in this one. I think I might take Texas Tech -3.
Here's where we differ. I'm going to go Cal
Okay.
+3, and obviously don't know anything about the roster situations for these teams as we're doing this.
No. I'm taking Cal. Tyler Shove or whatever his name is not on the roster anymore.
He wasn't even
Cal.
playing. He wasn't even playing
Okay.
for Texas Tech.
Okay, I'll take Texas Tech -3. Why not? Let's do it.
Take it, Cal +3.
Okay. All right. More bowl game pick 'em. The famous. I mean, this is just sickos committee right now that we're doing right here. Famous Toastery Bowl odds. For those not familiar, Famous Toastery Bowl was literally put together a month and a half ago because the Bahamas Bowl is not able to occur. So these teams would have been in the Bahamas for a week, and now they find themselves in Charlotte, North Carolina. Western Kentucky versus Old Dominion. I'm not even going to look at this, and I'm taking Western Kentucky +2.5. I like the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, I'll take the Hilltoppers.
Okay, the final one. Wait, am I just rolling through these? No, that's it. That
was it. That was Monday.
That was
Do
it.
you want to add the Tuesday game? When's the
Let's
next
do
show?
Tuesday. We got to figure out a show schedule. Tuesday. Yeah, we'll go to the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. Bro, this sounds made up. This doesn't even sound real.
I love bowl season. This is why we can't get rid of bowl games. Stop expanding the playoff and keep the bowl games just for the sponsors.
Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. I like to think that Scooters Coffee is just a local joint. Like it's not even. It's just like a local mom and pop stop. Coffee shop there in. And it's not even serve really coffee. Like it's just one guy back there with like community coffee brand over
Whipping
there.
Up everything.
Yeah. No mochas, no lattes.
Yeah, it's just black coffee.
Black coffee. But they call themselves, hey, this is Scooter's coffee. You can get a real mean grilled cheese here. Yeah, Alex, we know ball. We know ball. We're sitting here picking UTSA Marshall for a 9 p.m. kickoff Eastern. The Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl prime time. No one else is going to be watching this one. on Tuesday. Oh, man. How great is this? UTSA Marshall. I know UTSA has a quarterback that's been playing for like 27 years. I don't know if he's playing in this game. Jeff Traylor's still the head coach at UTSA. I like him.
Somehow.
But I will tell you this. This is a matchup of two teams that are probably not going to have their head coach in the next 1 to 2 years. Two really, really good head coaches battling it out here. Where do you sit in this game?
The spread is UTSA is a 13-point favorite. I'll go Marshall. I think that's too many points. I think, like you said, both these teams probably going to lose their head coach in the next couple of years. That tells me both of these teams are really well coached. Yeah. I think when you've got two teams that are well coached and you give them a month to prepare, 13.5 points is too many. So I'll go Marshall.
I'm going to go. I've got it at, what did you have it at?
13, and that's coming off ESPN. Odds by ESPN Bet, since ESPN has finally gotten into the betting game.
I've got it at 12.5. So you want to go off that or you want to go off 13?
I'll take 12.5.
Okay, so you're going Marshall plus 12.5. I'm going to differ from you. I think UTSA's offense is really, really good. I think that they're going to care more about this game being the fact that it's in Frisco, wherever, closer to San Antonio. I think UTSA players drink Scooters coffee on the regular. So I'm going minus 12.5 for the Roadrunners. And, man, that wraps up the opening week of bowl season, which is just going to be absolutely wild to kind of watch. I don't know, man.
So I just Googled Scooters Coffee. The closest one to me is in Alexander City, Alabama. So it is a chain. And you know what? I have seen this logo before. Can't tell you where I've seen it before. So Scooters Coffee does exist.
Dr. Bob says the spreadsheet is updated, and we're going to be back again. We might go live Tuesday night. We're going to figure out a show schedule.
It's going to be bloody, Dr. Bob. It's going to be a lot of red.
It's going to be a lot of red. And I'll get you Ralph's picks in there. I'll make sure he gets those over to you. But, Will, before we kind of get here, some housekeeping, longer show tonight. Obviously, Christmas is coming up. Hope you have a fantastic Christmas with your family. I'm going to be traveling back to Columbus, Georgia. So we are going to figure out a show schedule. We'll do some pre-recorded stuff. But we're really going to be
we got to do an in-person show.
Honestly.
We need to.
Let's
go back to the crowded booth roots.
Well, as long as we don't get robbed.
No, not that. No, not that. It's who the show's presented by.
Oh, the Bryce Coon Peppermint Dr. Squatch Bowl. Best soap on there. We need the Dr. Squatch Bowl. Think there's one in Rome, Georgia. Ooh, AFET says think there's one in Rome, Georgia. Might have to look and see. You know what? I'm going to tell you right now. If indeed there is one in Rome, Georgia, I'm probably
There
gonna be
is
heading
one
up
in
there.
Rome, Georgia.
Okay,
There's
I'm
one
going to
in
be
Rome,
heading up
Georgia.
there when I'm back in town. We're going to go up see some friends. I will. I know. Just follow at the Crowded Booth on Instagram, and I will give you a tour.
We're gonna discover all these bowl sponsors. We're gonna figure
That's
out
going
what
to be our
they
goal.
are.
Yeah, that's gonna be our goal. So hey, we appreciate you tuning in. Hope you had a fantastic Thursday evening. Catch us next time. We're going to be releasing kind of the show schedule on next week, and then after that, man, it's going to be just lead up into the bowl games. Going to be a very, very fun game. Seahawks says, are they playing at Barry? You know it, my friend. Barry's going to be hosting that one. It's going to be a ton of fun. Will Manis, my name is Bryce Coon. We will catch you next time here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce